Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel, TB Wrestling. This is my channel 100% dedicated to wrestling. If you're looking for my other channel, that is Timothy Bates, and there you will find reaction videos and videos where I just fool around. Today, we have episode 4 of Tell Your Story, where my illustrious guests will tell their story of how they got into pro wrestling. And today, we have professional wrestler, Rockstar Rip Parker. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm not gonna lie, a bit tired. I finished work at 8 this morning and I've not been able to sleep.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you so much for joining. Well, is it 4 p.m. over there?
Yeah, it is 4 p.m. over here. It's sunny, it's windy. I hate it. I want it to be cold.
well, you'd probably not like to hear that I literally woke up 2 hours ago, because it is 11 a.m. over here.
Oh, God.
Yep. Well, anyways, so first of all, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself, how you got into professional wrestling?
Okay. I've always liked professional wrestling, but again, I would describe myself as a casual fan. That was until WrestleMania 25 when I saw Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels. Now, I can't tell you what my first match was, but I can tell you the first match that made me fall in love with wrestling, and that was that match. And then a few months later, at the Slammies, that's when I fell in love with storytelling in wrestling, with the build to the sequel, the career versus the streak, Taker versus Michaels 2 at 26. Them two matches and the build is what made me fall in love with wrestling, and since then I've just not been able to quit it.
That's
So,
awesome. So kind of going off a little bit of a tangent. So is Undertaker one of your favorite wrestlers because of that?
oh, 100%. My top three favorite wrestlers of all time are number one, Shawn Michaels, number two, Undertaker, and number three, Roddy Piper.
That's awesome. So what did you think of this year's Boneyard, the match at WrestleMania against AJ Styles?
Um, I actually, both the Boneyard match and the Firefly Funhouse match, I'm just going to do the whole because I absolutely adored both of them. I love the build for it. I think it was smart to do American Biker Taker because I feel kind of, especially in recent years of WrestleMania, Dead Man Taker can only give so much to someone now. So it was fun and cinematically, I really enjoyed it.
What would you? So do you? And because I've seen a lot of people say I enjoyed it, but I wouldn't call it a match. I would just call it like a movie. In my opinion, I would call it a match. Would you call it a match?
Yeah, I would call it a match because at the end of the day, the way I see a match is here are your opponents, and there's going to be a winner. Like the final deletion, that's a match. The Firefly Funhouse, that's a match. I mean, look at Money in the Bank. This year. That was a cinematic spectacle, like the Boneyard match. Although I thought it was a bit rubbish, but it still had a clear winner and clear losers.
Mm-hmm.
I feel a lot of people feel that there has to be there has to be the bell, there has to be the referee, there has to be this, and that. And then I always point out, but look at all the other stipulation matches. Iron Man match, you've got to get multiple pinfalls or submissions. Last man standing, you just got to beat the count to 10. Like all these other match stipulations, no one bats an eyelid for, which confuses me. So definitely, Boneyard match. It's got match in the title.
Mm-hmm. So how did you personally get started in terms of training? I've heard from Ryan and Joe that for them, which had very different stories with Joe's mom telling him to start training, and then Ryan it being a little different story. Tell me your story of how you got to training.
Right. I'm going to just pre-emphasize this with a little background to me. So since the age of 14, 15, I decided wrestling is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Like, even if, whether that be actually competing, whether that be a manager, I just want to be involved in this world. To the point where I'd organize and arrange that after finishing college, I would go to university in Norwich just so I could train at WAW. and I'd had that planned in my head since I was 14 years old. So unlike Joe, who was like encouraged by his mum, and unlike Ryan, who discovered WAW and stuff, I had it set in my mind for a very long time. I'm 21, so and I started training when I was 18. So from 14 to 18, I was set. I was going to go to Norwich. Not, I say to study at university, but the true intention, the master plan was to wrestle for WAW and start this incredible journey, which has been a roller coaster.
That's awesome. So how many years have you been training so far?
On and off for, I'm going to say 2, because obviously I turned 21 last month, and with everything that's happening in the world today, I've not been able to train really since January. So I'll say on and off for 2, because 2 months into training, I fractured my knee in 2 separate places.
Oof.
Yeah. So for context, it was a training weekend. Joe and Ryan obviously talked to you about the training weekend. So if you wanted to hear them, go watch them interviews because they're great interviews. Little plug for the boys. So we were doing the training, and I was bottling it. I don't know if you guys have that phrase in the stateside, but it basically means like you're getting to something and you freeze like out of a bit of fear.
Yeah.
So I was meant to do an over the top ring exit. So I just had to run the ropes and then flip myself over the top rope, like holding on and stuff and reaching. First time failed. Second time failed. And then my trainer at the time said, "I know you can do this. I've seen you do it. Get your fat ass over that rope right now." And that egged me on a bit too much because I had far too much speed. I sprinted, hit the rope, flew over the top rope, landed perfectly, and everyone said, "I don't know how you did that so perfectly, yet somehow you broke your knee from just landing." Which was a great way to then go to hospital and then spend my 19th birthday in the emergency room.
Oof. Wow. Well, so definitely sounds like you've had some definitely awful times. So you've had a match at this point, though.
I've been involved in 3 battle royals. I'm not going to include any like training matches and stuff that I've done down the gym and stuff because obviously no one other than trainees has seen that stuff.
Yeah.
But 3 battle royals that people have seen.
And let's go back to your first battle royal. What was going through your head right up to it and then during it?
Right. So with WAW, one of the like key rules, even if you're a beginner, no matter who you are, you've got to have your gear with you in case anyone has to drop out or in case there's an injury. If you've got your gear on you, then everything's covered. So I always take my gear with me. Even when I go just training down the gym, I have my gear with me. We were running short for a show and we needed a battle royal to determine who was going to go into this Royal Rumble match. I got picked because they needed bodies. So I was not prepared for my first match. I had no real prep time barring getting changed and getting told when I'm getting chucked over the top rope because I knew I was not going to win it because this was my debut really, and B, it made no sense because there was people in that match that had proper storyline reasons, especially at the time, to go for that Rumble match.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a bit stressful, but thankfully, if my memory serves correctly, Ryan was in that match with me, and so it was good to have Ryan there and a couple of other guys from training. If I remember correctly, Balcat XL, who's one of our masked high flyers of the academy, who I hate because he is so young yet so talented, the little runt. He was really helpful. He's got so much experience, especially compared to me. And my overall best friend in wrestling, Keegan, who was there to be like, breathe, you've got this, you can do this. Just you've been taught how to do this, you know what to do. Just go out there and do it. So, like Joe and Ryan told you, battle royal matches especially just blow on each other until there's enough people for space to do big moves. So I ended up just being bombed a bit, made to look a bit big, and then chucked over the top rope. So that was the eventful story of my first match.
That's awesome. So, who do you kind of mold your style off of? Do you have like any wrestlers that you like to kind of say, okay, this is kind of who I take my in-ring style from?
Oh God, I could sit here for hours and just talk about wrestlers that like inspire me, like current guys, older guys, guys in New Japan, guys in AEW, guys in WWE, guys on the indie scene. Um, Funny enough, I don't mold myself over anyone in particular, and that's mostly because, um, barring the faction that I want to start with, Joe, Jay, and Ryan, an idea I had further down the line in my career would be that every promotion I work for gets a different character. So WAW would have Rick Parker, and then let's say ICW up in Scotland would get a different version of me. Um, uh, so if I'm going to say that, Mick Foley and Chris Jericho, the way they redesigned themselves and invented new characters when the time needed it. But I wanted it to be that every promotion I went to got a different part of me, got something different. So one might have a brawler, one might have a hardcore specialist, one might have a tech savvy heel, one might have a over the top babyface. Um, because I remember my friend again Keegan um, said, "I'm not tall enough to be a big guy, but I'm too big to be a small guy." So I'm kind of in this weird spot where I'm like, I've got the strength to do these power moves,
Mm-hmm.
but I can only really do them on guys smaller than me, and that's not. So it kind of ruins it against bigger guys. But then against bigger guys, I've got enough flexibility and speed and agility to do some more adrenaline pumped moves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I kind of realized like, okay, if I'm in this kind of weird sweet spot of I'm able to do a bit of everything if I put my mind to it and able to practice it, why not use that? So if I'm talking general influences, Jericho, Foley, again, Piper, just for character work and promos, Michaels and Taker, I'd say would be my five that I'm heavily inspired by in terms of overall. But like I said, I could be here for hours just saying like, oh, Isaiah Scott, Kenny Omega, uh, Sonata, Okada. Just keep going through a list of people that I just adore to watch.
So say that it's like a lazy afternoon and you're free and you are able to watch one promotion of wrestling. And it could be like any promotion from like back then, it could be any promotion right now. And you were told, okay, you can watch one promotion and that's it
God
for
damn
like
it.
the whole day. Which one would you
God
choose?
damn it. God, that's harder than asking me to name my favorite wrestlers at the moment. Jesus Christ. I'm gonna have to go with New Japan. If you're putting the gun to my head, saying pick a show right now, I'm saying New Japan. Because I like AEW, I like NXT. I don't like main roster WWE. I like NXT UK. I like 205 Live. I like Progress. I like ICW. I like ROH. I like Impact. But New Japan has that perfect blend of high intense action and incredible matches and storytelling that just makes sense and works. And it again, I think you've probably been able to tell that storytelling is a very big thing for me, as well as just the in-ring action. So New Japan is like a perfect blend for me.
So I can tell just from like talking with you that you have like that your mind is constantly moving in terms of thinking like, okay, what can I do next? Do you
Yeah.
constantly like plan out like in the future, like this is something I would love to do? Or like you said with planning characters, like if I ever went to like ICW, oh, this is definitely the type of character I'd want to portray. Are you
Oh,
always just thinking about that stuff?
absolutely. Like You can ask my friends inside and outside of wrestling. You can ask my family. They'll all tell you that literally the only thing I ever talk about and the only thing I ever, barring like movies and video games and stuff like
Yeah.
that, because obviously, you know, if I was talking wrestling all the time, I'd go mad. But wrestling is the constant, and the amount of times where it's been like midnight and I've woken up in like cold sweats, being like, I have to design this new gear, I have to write down this. I just had it. It's case me. Oh my god, this storyline would be great. Like you can ask Jay, Ryan, and Joe, and I've messaged them so many different times separately and in our group chat, and been like, guys, what about this for a move? What about this for a tag move? What about this for a storyline? Okay, what if we went against? What if we did this against Zach Knight? What if we did this against Sweet Saraya? And just constantly, I'm always trying to think of something new. And if I can't think of something new, how can I improve on something?
Mm-hmm. So in WAW, I know it's run very heavily by the Knight family, and from what I've seen on their website, they're heavily involved in the academy in terms of like their shows.
Yeah.
Do they give y'all like? Do they give you guys really good like reign or a lot of control on what you do with your characters, or is there a lot of give and take with them, or are they more just like this is what we think would be best for you?
So I'm going to talk about this through two different angles.
Okay.
So being in the beginner's class, our trainer, our coach, whatever you want to call her, is Sweet Saraya, Paige's mum, the matriarch of the Knight family. No matter your size, no matter your experience, if she's teaching you something, she'll want everyone to try it, because in her head, she's very much if you can do it, then you've got something you can do in a match. So, for example, we were doing a sequence that she calls the Saint McCoy, a play on, obviously you can hear John Saint in there. And there's a move in there that involves walking across the top rope and then doing springboarding into an arm drag. Now, I have a friend at Trainee called Henry, who's about 11'7". Like he's a tall boy. He makes me look like a hobbit. That's how tall we're talking. Big, beautiful beard. And he's one of our super heavyweights. Saraya had him walking across the top rope and springboarding, and it was gorgeous to watch. So, in terms of training, Saraya especially, she wants everyone to give it a try. Either you're going to be able to do it, and you've got a new tool, you've got a new toy for your toy box. If you can't use it, at least you know how it works. So that if someone says, "Oh, can we do this spot in a match?" You're like, "I know how this works. I can do it. Yep, let's do that." And in terms of character stuff, Zach, who is basically the head honcho creative, really, he is very much if you come to me with an idea, we'll talk about it and we'll see what we can do. He's very much he wants everyone to have their kind of own sort of input into their character. He wants everyone to have some form of creative control, obviously within reason of experience, and if it's needed for the academy, if it's needed for the main roster. So I remember I came to him with an idea, and he said, "That'd be good if we were going to make you a jobber." And he said, "And you're better than that." And I want everyone to think they are better than a jobber, because no one should go into a show, no one should go into a company feeling that they are only there to eat a pinfall and go home. Everyone should feel like they are capable of being the top guy, being the franchise player for that company. So Zach's very much if you've got a story, if you've got a character, I'll hear you out. We'll see what we can do. We'll see how we can get that involved in the storyline. And it's very much no, there aren't any wrong ideas. There's just ideas that need improving, sort of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love the point about no one should feel like they're just coming to eat the pen. I remember I asked Ryan, how do you deal with yourself when you know that you're going to lose? And he gave a great answer, very similar to yours, that's not necessarily the biggest thing that matters. And I think that's a great way to just make sure that your heads are not getting too big when you're starting. That's really cool to hear.
Yeah. Well, I always use the example when explaining it to people, of especially people that know wrestling. I always use the example of Johnny Gargano versus Andrade and Gargano in NXT,
That match is
where Gargano
amazing.
had, but when Gargano had to leave because he took the pinfall. The thing is that added to the story of Gargano versus Ciampa, which then made the match at New Orleans so much more intense because if Gargano didn't win, he didn't get his job back. And if he won, he got revenge against Ciampa. So you go into that story with more vigor. You go into that story going, I want to see what happens. I want to feel the emotions. And you did. So Gargano had to eat the pinfall to get to that point in the story.
That's an awesome metaphor because that match was actually one of the first matches that I saw in NXT. And I didn't know much about Johnny Gargano and Andrade Almas. And I just remember watching it and be like, holy fuck.
We're going to go back to a couple of questions, guys. Gargano and Ciampa are probably like my current like modern molds in terms of kind of jack of all trades, can do whatever you give them. And I think Gargano's proving that with his heel work now in NXT, which is, and the fact that Ciampa is been able to turn face just from returning from injury and being able to fit into that role so easily just shows how versatile and how valuable they are as not just performers but as wrestlers themselves.
Yeah, and one thing about just that I've seen just with Johnny Gargano is he's actually from the hometown where I go to college, and he comes all the time around. And one thing that Gargano does, which I've always thought is cool, I don't know if he does this now, but he is such a baby face in person. Like he showed up to a donut shop that was making Johnny Gargano donuts, came there, signed autographs, ate donuts with people. Like I met him at a donut shop, and it's like that's such a baby face thing to do, to eat donuts with fans.
Well, that's something that I really admire when Gargano was face, obviously. And if we're going to look at the other side of the coin, one of my favorite bit of storytelling, like the most beautiful bit of heel work I've seen in such a long time, was when Ciampa came out to the ring with no entrance theme and just the chorus of boos. Like NXT is very much a very intelligent audience in terms of fans that know what they're talking about because they've watched other promotions and they like to think they know what they're talking about. But NXT has a good habit of being 3 steps ahead of the audience. And the fact that Ciampa knew he was going to be so booed and so hated by the fans because that's a risky move. Because if he wasn't as hated as he was and it was silent coming to the ring, that would have killed Ciampa's character. But just the little details he does, like just a that little heel work that somehow turned into face work when he's with Gargano. I'm gushing about Ciampa and Gargano again. I'm gonna have to go and call myself off.
That's one of my all-time favorite feuds. There's just nothing better than that. That's just so much fun. So what would you say is harder, being a heel or being a face?
I say both. Looking at it from being someone who is naturally a storyteller. Little side fact: I was studying creative writing and English literature before dropping out of sixth form, which is another form of college in this country. So storytelling is just a natural part of my being. I want to tell stories all the time. And the thing is that a lot of people say, "Oh, heel's easier," but there's a difference between cheap heel and actual heel, in my opinion. Like if I punch a dog or implied to punch a dog off screen, everyone's going to hate me because I punched a dog. That's cheap. It's like going to it. I don't want to say Elias had cheap heat, but when he would go to towns and mock people's towns and mock their local teams and stuff, it's funny, but it's cheap. Something I remember overhearing at Fightmare last year, which was our WWE's big show that we did at Carroll Road, the local football ground to WW. I overheard Zach say something that really resonated with me, and it was don't talk about Ipswich, which is the rival football team for Norwich. And I overheard him saying that's cheap heat, and you don't want cheap heat. You want actual heat if you're a heel. The whole idea of expat heat and stuff. I don't like this idea that people have that heels are easy to do because you just got to insult the local team or do something heinous. I taking Ciampa again, he was a smart heel. He was a heel that he didn't have to resort to cheap methods.
Mm-hmm.
He built a story, and he built up this story. They built that story from the Cruiserweight Classic all the way to its unfortunate end. And
Yeah.
just the detail that's gone into that heel work, it wasn't like, I'm better than you and I'm better than your local sports team. It was, I'm the greatest sports entertainer of all time. And there's nothing you can say that will disprove that fact. Like, just little things he would do. And I'm starting to sound like AJ Styles, which is ironic given your shirt, but it is a lot about the little things and the level of detail. Again, going back to the cheap stuff, being a babyface is, yes, it's difficult to get people on side of you, especially when you're just starting out. But again, like I said, it's difficult to be a heel because you need to be A, hated enough that if the face beats you, the crowd are going to go wild, and B, hated enough that if you beat the face, you better get the hell out of Dodge because you're being hunted. That's how much you want to be hated as a heel.
Yeah, definitely.
Controversial opinion from me, and I've got full of controversial opinions when it comes to wrestling.
Well, I guess. Well, then let me ask you this: what would you say your biggest controversial opinion is?
It's not even a controversial opinion. It's a it kind of is and it kind of isn't. So I'm a firm believer that wrestling is meant to tell human stories. It's meant to tell stories that we can relate to. Jimmy Havoc said in a video once, I think it was Straight to Health by Cultaholic, that the reason he did the spot where he stepped barefoot on thumbtacks or drawing pins in this country was because it's a pain that you can relate to, like stepping on a Lego brick or stepping on a plug. It's a pain that you can see and you can be like, I can relate to how that feels. So a lot of my storytelling, I want to be stuff that people can look at and be like, I can relate to the characters in this story, or it pushes the line between real and kayfabe. So when talking to Renegades, the faction, I've come up with like different promos where I would, or one of the boys would like imply that there's like stuff going on behind the scenes and backstage stuff, and we'd never directly say anything, but the fact that we're implying stuff would get the fans going, hang on, are they shooting on the WAW, or is this all the work? And getting people guessing and getting people going, I need to know if what they're saying is true. I need to know what's going to happen next. So because of that, I've got very controversial opinions on, I think storytelling in wrestling has become very, I don't want to say bland because there's been great variants of stories, but I want to say it's a lot of it isn't pushing the boat out enough. I think one of the storylines that I've very much enjoyed has been Tessa Blanchard's rise through Impact, because it didn't feel like it was being done because, feminism. It felt like a natural progression in terms of her character and her story, in my opinion. So this is going to get me a lot of hate, but again, the shirt I'm wearing is independent from WeTheIndependent.com. And I'm a huge fan of their podcast. They did one with Jack Sexsmith, a retired wrestler who was a huge representative of the LGBTQ plus community in this country. And he had pitched an idea, and it's an idea I had also had similar ideas about, a homophobia storyline in Progress, the company he was most associated with at the time. And the thing is that I'm very much aware that people would be uncomfortable with that, not just in the company, but also the audience. But the thing is that I don't like the fact I can watch a soap opera and see a rape storyline, a depression storyline, a homophobia storyline. These human stories, these things that people can relate to because I've gone through it, or they know people that have gone through it. But we can't tell that story in wrestling, which is meant to be about real people and real stories. It's the whole fact of there's a reason you don't see characters like The Undertaker anymore, because that is a character of its time. Mm-hmm. You can get characters that are homages to that, barring Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt is like the weird goddamn anomaly in the system. Yeah. Like he broke the system somehow. Like a character like that shouldn't work, but it does because of his intelligence and how much of a genius he is creatively. But everyone else is human. I know that wrestlers are pushed to be like these ungodly superhumans or these ungodly monsters, but at the end of the day, Finn Balor with body paint on is still Finn Balor.
Absolutely.
So again, controversial opinion.
Yeah. So were your friends and family supportive with you wanting to get into wrestling, or was that like something where they were like not too sure about it?
Mixed bag, honestly, mixed bag. So my grandparents, for example, were just happy that I was finally doing something like a physical exercise, like physical sport outside of like stuff from school and stuff. Because my granddad always said like the way I'm built physically, I should have gone into sports like rugby and stuff, or I think the best equivalent for you guys is American football.
Yeah.
Because of my body build and everything. But they just never interested me. There was nothing there for me. There was no substance for me. My mum was just happy that I finally found something that actually put some fire in my eyes again, because I'm someone that I need a challenge. If I'm not challenged, like mentally, physically, if there's nothing there for me to sink my teeth into, I get bored very easily, and it gets me antsy to move on to something new that I actually care about. My friends, Max, Brandon, Lorna, Ryan, just all of my friends in general have been very supportive of me and my wrestling, because they know it's, for someone like me who's got a history of mental health problems, it's something that has helped bring a balance and bring me a creative outlet to get all these emotions I have, all these feelings, all these thoughts out into the world in a creative way that others can see and relate to.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So what are you doing during this whole pandemic to sort of keep in shape or get ring ready?
So again, another shout out. I'm just shouting out everyone at this point. Uh, one of my friends at Training, Imogen, she's a personal trainer. So I messaged her a couple of weeks ago asking, right, I want to burn body fat and I want to build muscle. What are your recommendations? She gave me wonderful recommendations. I will send you a link to her Instagram, because she's posted a lot of workout videos for all sorts, high intense training, cardio, upper body, lower body, you name it. She's got a videos explaining what to do and how to do it properly so you get the best results. So working out, I've been using a lot of her stuff, and it's helped me a lot. Actually, if I remember correctly, I've lost about half a stone, which I don't know what the conversion is, but that's a fair amount of weight loss, and I'm starting to see results. I've been eating healthier, and cardio, I've been going bike rides. So I've just been doing as much as I can with as little time as I can, because like I said, I got home at 8 o'clock this morning from work. I work 12-hour shifts, so it can be very difficult to get a workout in and have the energy to get the best out of it.
So one of the last things I wanted to ask you is, have you ever had a moment in your training where you were kind of doubting if I should even do this, and you thought about quitting? And if so, what did you tell yourself, or what keeps you going?
Yeah, I mean, all the time, because like I said, I'm trying to get myself physically in the shape and the look I want to be. So I'm always seeing people like come in and out of the company, and people in the company that look better than me, that work better than me, can talk better than me, and are just better than me in general when it comes to wrestling. But so I'm constantly in a battle of doubt in my head of where do I belong in this world. But the thing I will constantly tell myself is everyone has a dream, and someone has to make it. Otherwise, the next generation will not have the same icons to look up to then dream what they want to dream. You know what I mean? It's this idea of if 5,000 people dream of being a wrestler, at least one of them's got to make it. It's physically possible for not one of them to make it. So I kind of have this attitude of, if one person's going to make it, why not me? Why not? What's stopping it being me?
Definitely. Definitely. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Do you have anything you want to shout out or promote?
God, what haven't I shouted out at this point? You can follow me on Instagram at capital RCKSTR _Rick Parker. You can follow me on Twitter at capital RCKSTR _Rick. I'll send you a bunch of other links. Follow WAW at WAW_UK. I believe that's both their Twitter and their Instagram handle. It's definitely their Instagram handle. Follow Bellatrix Female Warriors, because them girls are incredible, and the work they do half the time puts the guys at training to shame, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The effort they put in. I'm also going to say follow We the Independent at We the Indie, spelled IE, not Y, because the work they're doing for labour empowerment in wrestling and getting wrestlers the rights that they deserve is such an important thing, especially with how crazy times are right now. We need to be a unified force as a wrestling community. Fans, promoters, wrestlers, if you're involved in this industry, no matter what, you should support each other.
Awesome. And I will put all those links in the description. If you can get those to me, I'll put them right down below. Thank you so much for joining me today for episode 4 of Tell Your Story. If you are an independent wrestler, absolutely. If you are an independent wrestler or a fan and you're interested in being on the podcast, feel free to send me a message on Instagram and we can have you on. Again, thank you so much for having me. Or for being on.
Anytime.
Awesome.
Anytime.
And stay tuned on Saturday night, where me and a couple of the people I've interviewed are going to be giving our thoughts on AEW Double or Nothing, and it should be a heck of a time. So we'll see you then. And until then, have a great day.